What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek, and today we are talking Prime Day deals for OBSBOT. OBSBOT makes a series of cameras that you can use, video options that you can use to create your content. And I'm also welcoming the backpack streamers in here. Backpack streamer, what is that? That's basically somebody that can use these types of cameras, go out in the wild, create content, come back and post it. And being able to put all of this streaming gear into a backpack, a couple bags, it's all about that idea nowadays. If you're going on a picnic or you're going to see a band, or if you're going to check a presentation, or you're just going to go out in the middle of nowhere and you want to either record or live stream, if you have the ability, that's what a lot of these devices sitting on the table can do. So welcome to the backpack streamers out there. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Prime Day deals for two items here. Of course, the Tail Air and then the Tail 2, which is in this box right here. The Tiny 2, excuse me, which is in this box right here. And we're going to do that next on Geekazine. What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers from Geekazine. Thanks a lot for watching on the YouTube over on geekazine.com, youtube.com/Geekazine, where you can like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification, of course, so all those YouTubers get their wings. Appreciate that. And of course, we're growing and growing and growing. And of course, the new channel is called the Backpack Streamer. It's over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/the Backpack Streamer. So you can check that out over there. But what we're talking about today is something that a backpack streamer would have, and that is gear from OBSBOT, OBSBOT, however you want to call it. It is about cameras. And I remember the first time I saw them was back in 2018 at CES. They had the predecessor to the Tail Air, which I believe was just called the Tail. It's a little bit bigger and had a lot of features. And the best part is it followed you using AI. And you raised your hand and it started following you, and it had extra gestures in it. I remember there was a cool gesture where you could do something like this and it would do like a tail spin or something like that to come get to you. It was kind of weird. I got an all video on it. I'll post a link to that video so you can watch the cool features of that first tail. But ever since then, OBSBOT has been building and building and building for the backpack streamer. And we've got some great stuff I'm going to show you while we show you these products, including a new app that's going to be coming out soon called the OBSBOT Live that can do a little bit more than what OBSBOT does through their app. And, a couple things that we saw at NAB, including their new Talent, which is a multi-camera box switcher, and which isn't out yet, but it's coming out very soon. So lots of cool stuff from OBSBOT. But what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about what's on the table and get to the Tail Air. Before we get started, I do have to let you know a lot of this product was given to me by OBSBOT. They are not sponsoring this video. Of course, all the links that for the discounts are sponsoring this video, so using those links helps me greatly, and I appreciate that. All opinions are of my own. I'm a big fan of OBSBOT. I will tell you that right now. And if you have any questions, I have all the information about how I do reviews and how I talk about products over at geekazine.com/review. Geekazine.com/review. You can check that out. If you've got a product that you want me to take a look at, definitely contact me through that page. Now, to save you some time, if you really want the deal, I've got a couple links below. One's an Amazon link, one is a non-Amazon link. And what it does, it'll get 5% off the OBSBOT Tail Air, which is a great deal. It'll also get you 10% off the Tiny 2, the second generation. Actually, it's the third generation Tiny. The first generation Tiny was 1080p, and then they went 4K. This is the 4K model. And then, of course, they went to a different design here. And that's what this is, the Tiny 2. I'll take it out of the box in a second here. But wanted to show you a few of these things before we get started. And, of course, the Tiny 2, I don't know if I mentioned that, 10% off. And we'll have a link down below in the show notes. So go ahead and check that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to text me over at Geekazine, geekazine@gmail.com. And anywhere you see Geekazine, you can just message me from there. And hey, where's that deal? Where's that deal? What are you doing with that deal? Is that deal there? Is it? All right. let's get started here, and we're going to talk about a few things before we talk about the Tail Air stuff. Let's just move this around. We're going to start with this one. This is actually a really cool, I use this item, I use this a lot, and this is the UVC. This was their first UVC item. This is UVC to HDMI. So what you could do is you could take your Tiny 2, you plug it in USB-C to USB-C 2 right there. You plug in your power to the wall. This is for the Tiny remote, which I have somewhere, but I can't seem to find it anymore. But the whole point is that this would then turn this into a remote camera. On this end is an HDMI out. So this went up to 10, I believe 1080p if I remember correct. But it basically was simply that you could take this device, put it up into the rafters, put it up where you need it, go through the USB, come out through the HDMI port. You could bring it into a capture card. You could bring it into an ATEM Mini. You could bring it into a YOLO box. You can bring it into a lot of different things and be able to send stuff out. Like I said, these are the types of cameras I love to put in spots where it's going to get a very general view of everything. You don't have to zoom in. You don't have to do too much to it, but you can position it and you can allow it to work around as you go. The whole point is that I can put this somewhere, and if I need to access it, I can go on the app. I can go on the phone app, and I can make the changes from here and then get back to what I'm doing, or use the USB remote to kind of position it in the right spot and go from there. This camera, I'll tell you something. At my old place, I use these cameras as actually security cameras. So, and more of the fact of, I couldn't see what was going on. I didn't have any windows in the right spot in my studio. So when somebody came to the front door, yeah, I could go through the multitude of security cameras that I had, but I also had these set up so they were pointing out and looking out at the road, at the door, to see what was going on outside. And what's great about these is I can do some instant capture. I could bring it into my studio and show you what's going on in the front door, which I could do with the security cameras. It takes a little bit more work than this one. So basically, I had this USB cable to the UVC to HDMI, and that went out into a capture card, which then went into my computer. I also have some other devices that can turn this into NDI, and it's on my network, so it becomes a regular camera. So the other cool thing I did with these Tinies is whenever I went on a bigger excursion where I couldn't take all my luggage, I end up, a lot of shows I take like three bags with me that get checked, and 2 of those bags are mostly gear. Third bag has just a little bit of clothing in there, but then there's stands and other gear. So on a regular trip, about 150 pounds across the air, and going overseas like that's really tough. So for a backpack streamer, makes this something like this makes life a lot easier, because I could set this up and I could have some distance now, because I have a cable, USB cable that goes to here, HDMI cable a little bit longer that goes to my capture card in my computer, and work from there. These items you can still get. I think you can get this on the OBSBOT website, but the UVC to HDMI, I've got a couple of these. I'm going to use them as long as I can. And then, of course, the original Tiny 2 design. This is the 4K version. This is also a 1080p version, which I don't know if that's in stock, but I know the 4K, you can get the 4K versions as well. All right, from there, we moved on to Tiny 2. And we got 2 items here. We got the Tiny 2 and the Tiny 2 Lite. Let's show you the Tiny 2 first, because I have it unboxed. So this is a great little device that allows you, it's just basically like the Tiny, except it's in smaller form factor. Let's show you this. Here's the Tiny, the 4K Tiny, and then the Tiny 2. It's even tinier than the Tiny. So the tinier Tiny 2 is tinier than Tiny 1. That makes sense? Perfect. Okay. So a lot of the same great features, AI ability connects up to the computer. and a lot more. It's a little bit more streamlined design, so it could fit on top of a monitor, fit on top of a laptop without too much weight or anything like that. Because as you can feel the weight between the two. That's for sure. So smaller design, and of course, I think this also has a better resolution sensor in here than that one. As we grow, we continue to do that. And then of course the Tiny 2 Lite, which has a 1/2-inch sensor inside of there. But anyway, the Tiny 2, easy to set up. It's also got the accessory port on here, and that's for a device I'm going to show you a little bit later. I think that'll also work there. But what you get with the Tiny 2 is the Tiny 2 itself, and you get the mount for any type of monitor or laptop or anything like that. It's also got a magnet. Oh, is that a magnet? No, it's not a magnet. That's okay. Thought that was a magnet. My bad. It's also got this right here, which is an extension mount. And look at that. This is magnetic. So technically it is a magnet. But this is the Tiny 2 is magnetic. So you could literally go like this. And this could be sitting over a product. And you'd be doing product demos with this camera. I could put it on my ceiling. It's a drop ceiling up there. And it could be pointing down from there. USB cable has to run through, of course. USB-C, and you can do a USB-C to USB-C or USB-C to USB-A cable. They do give you a USB-C cable. This is a really nice rubber cable. It's pretty long. I think it's about 3 feet. You can kind of see. Let's do this. You can kind of see it. There it is. And this is USB-C to USB-C. They also give you the attachment, which I never took out of the bag, which is the, I can't pull it. There we are. It's the USB-C to A adapter. And I'm going to keep that in the bag because it's kind of nice. And if I need it, then I'll pull it out. But really nice cable. You can then put it into that. You could then put it into the HDMI converter adapter and then run it into your computer if you wanted to. I have another device here that I'm going to show you that will work well with the Tiny 2 and the Tiny 2 Lite. And we'll show you that in a minute here as we go. But bottom line is that this is the Tiny 2 Lite with the very adjustable stand. It's got a lip on it. So if you put it on, because certain monitors do different things. Some have curved backs, some are flat. But you could put this onto a flat screen TV. You could put this onto a curved monitor, or a lot of other things, and be able to position it. So if, let's say, there's a curve in the monitor, this can be set here, and then the camera is not tilted back like this, because now you can lift it up and level it out. So your camera can have its full PTZ functionality. And of course, like I said, hey, if you got a product that you want to show off, just tilt it all the way. That magnet's going to hold it, and you're going to be good to go from there. That's the Tiny 2 Lite, which is a great deal. And once again, for Prime Day deals, it's going to be 10% off, and we're going to have links down in the show notes. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get it over at OBSBOT's website. So this is the Tiny 2. What's not on sale, but is even a great price, because there's going to be a lot of features with the Tiny that you get. But if you don't need all of those features and you want something that's going to be less cost, that's where the Tiny 2 Lite comes in. I'm just closing this up really quick, and we're going to go ahead and show you. We're going to actually unbox the Tiny 2 Lite as we go from here. So this is it. This is the Tiny 2 Lite 4K, and we'll show you the difference between the Tiny 2 and the Tiny 2 Lite here. What's in the box? It shows you everything in the box. It talks about everything. Like I said, this has got a 1/2-inch sensor, so it'll capture anything with a decent amount of lighting to it. And of course, it connects up to your computer. So let's go ahead and open this up. Little guy right there. So let's go ahead and open this up, pull this up. What we got here is we got all the documentation. Stay pro, stay productive. That's what it says. And then we have the Tiny 2 Lite right there. Look at that. Pretty cool. And on here, we have basically the cables. Notice that it doesn't come in the case like the other one has. So just keep that in mind when you are when you're setting this up. This box could be a case in itself. So don't throw that away if you're going to be using this in a portable situation. So, but we got a USB C to C cable, simple C to C cable, and then of course the C to A adapter, just like with the other one. So let's go ahead and we'll plug that like that so we don't lose it. We'll put it back into here, and then we're gonna take this, set this to the side. So this is the Tiny 2 Lite. Let's go back and head and bring in the Tiny 2 again. Like I said, the Tiny 2 case. So you notice there really isn't much difference between the two. In fact, could you tell the difference? I think I could. This looks like the Tiny 2. It looks a little bit higher up. Yeah, no, this is the Lite. This is the Lite, so it's a little bit bigger than the Tiny 2. This is the Tiny 2. Let's take a look at the Lite here. Okay, so you know we had that little accessory pin thing I'm going to show you a little bit later for the Tiny 2. I don't see that on the bottom here. I also didn't see this little guy right here, this extra mounting bracket with the magnetic base. So, but what this has, it looks like it has its own base on it. There we go. It does have a 1/4-inch mount, so you can put it onto your tripods. But as you can see there, it just basically has a little lip, so you can put it right on the monitor. And then of course this guy right here moves back to hold onto the monitor like so. So that's one of the design changes with the Tiny 2 Lite. Let's go ahead and take the protective film off there. There we go. And so on front, we got logo, we got dual microphones. That's so you don't need a microphone unless you really are looking for the best quality audio. Then you do what I do and get microphones. So, but anyway, nothing on the sides here. On the back is the USB-C connection right there. That is the Tiny 2 Lite, as opposed to, once again, where the Tiny 2 go. There's the Tiny 2. I think the difference in size is simply because of the fact that it's got that mount right on the camera, where this has a detachable mount because of these pins and everything like that. So there we go. We got the Tiny 2 and the Tiny 2 Lite right against each other. A little bit bigger, but it is also a lot less expensive than the Tiny 2. I won't talk about prices. Yeah, we won't talk about prices on this, but the whole point, it's about almost half the difference between the two. So if you're looking, and you could easily take these cameras and put them on tripods and use them around a studio. So if you're buying 3, 4, 5, 6, of course you're going to need a computer that can handle having that many USB cameras, but you could definitely be using this for a radio show, a podcast, or anything like that. Getting these cameras close up on the person is something. It's something that I've thought about doing in multiple situations, especially when I'm doing like one-on-one conversations where we can get around a round table. We could put these little cameras right onto the table, pointed right at them, and then if they do make any shifts, the AI in this thing could actually say, hey, he's moving to the left, she's moving to the right, whatever, I'm going to follow, and then keep that in frame as they go. So I'm going to definitely be testing these out. And of course, with all these extra features that I'm showing you down the road here, we're definitely going to have some really cool stuff that you'll be able to use with this to make this a great production. So once again, this is the Tiny 2. This is the Tiny 2 Lite. The big differences are the mount is embedded into the camera. This is a little bit bigger, but of course there's a mount inside this camera. And of course, I believe all the specs are pretty close to the same thing. So, and of course the price is a lot better for this guy than it is for this guy. Once again, Prime Day deals, this guy is 10% off, and you can get that over at, we've got some links in the show notes down in the description down below that you can use to get that great deal. All right, next up, let's talk about, like I said, we talked about the UVC to HDMI, but this is a new thing as well. This is the OBSBOT UVC to NDI box. Now, if you don't know what NDI is, it's basically a Ethernet protocol or Wi-Fi protocol that allows you to take video like a camera, like one of these Tail Airs, and send it across your network and come into your computer without having an HDMI cable close by. My studio is set up for NDI. In fact, this camera and this camera are both NDI cameras. They're wired into a switcher that is going into a computer. It's all wired in this case, and this is a wired device, but things like the Tail Air have a wireless option to them. But in this case, what we have here is just like with that UVC to HDMI, this one goes through the network, through NDI, and it's called an NDI HX protocol, which NDI, you can have high bandwidth NDI, so really power, lots of data, so they can have lots of data that can go through there, that goes into back and forth into the computer. But with the HX protocol, you could have several of these in a smaller network and be able to get like a 1080p signal across. So if you're doing podcasts and you're using these types of cameras anyway, then you can get this through there. You can also take these cameras, just like I do all the time, is put these up in the rafters and then put a box like this in here, and then have one Ethernet cable run to your switch, which would then come back. I would also take these cameras. These are really cool cameras for bands, because you can take these cameras and put them, you can't totally put them in places where, like guitar necks or anything like that, but you can put it onto a stand. You can put it very close, like it's looking at the singer or the guitar player or whatever, and it's not going to block the fan's view of it, and it will also capture video up close. That's what I really like about these guys. So having a little box like this, I can have this set off to the side, have the USB cable run into here, Ethernet go into a switch come back to my system, and I'd be able to capture some of the close-up work of the drummer or the bass player or whatnot. And same thing with like presenters or panels, one-on-one discussions. You could get pretty creative with these little guys and put them on little sliders. There are smaller versions of sliders that you can put these on, and then they just don't get in the way, but they're just sitting there going up and down or left and right. And then if you need just a really cool quick shot of the overall stage, boom, there you go, coming through NDI out to the public. So that is the UVC to NDI adapter, and this is actually a new item from OBSBOT. It's less than a year old, and I've been using this on a lot of shows, and it's really cool. And once again, if you're a backpack streamer, something like this is a great way for you to extend a camera a little bit farther. The Ethernet is also PoE, power over Ethernet. So if you have a switch that can send power through the Ethernet cable, then you don't need the USB power to power it. So that might save you a little bit on cabling right there. So, all right. I think we got everything covered here. There are other devices, other cool items from OBSBOT, and you can go to their website and check that out. You can go over to Amazon's page and check that out. But this has been their tail of the tail has been a pretty long and windy road, but it's been a very awesome, productive road. And they've grown with this system it's just amazing what you can do with some of these items. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is the OBSBOT Tail Air, and don't mind the markings. These are just basically telling me camera 1, camera 2. So this is the OBSBOT Tail Air. When you get it with one of these great little cases right here. And it's very important, keep it in the case. This can shatter. I've seen people accidentally shatter this lens, and it doesn't help you if you got a shattered lens. And of course, it is a PTZ camera, pan, tilt, zoom. So pan, being able to go left to right, tilt, being able to go up and down, and zoom. It's a digital zoom, but you can definitely zoom in. Get about 2 to 3 times zoom off of this to make it look really good. You get a farther than that, it looks kind of pixelated. I like to use these cameras if I have to zoom in, I zoom in very, very little, because once again, the resolution, and it also depends on if you're going 4K or 1080p. This thing can do 4K, it can do 1080p, and it can do 720p too. So if you have it set to 1080p, 4K sensor on 1080p, you could go 2x and still keep the integrity of the video. You can go a little bit more than that and keep the integrity of the video. But if you are recording 4K with these cameras, then you just a little bit of zoom in. Just kind of get the corners out of the way type thing to frame it up properly. It is AI enabled, so you can turn it with a hand gesture. Like if you raise your hand, all of a sudden this thing will start flashing and say, hey, you're now in AI mode. So every time I do this, it'll do this. Every time I do this, it'll do this. You get the idea. It will follow me, and it does a great job in following me. In fact, I've done some videos where I walked out to a park and I just moved around, and it was following me fairly well. It does have a little bit of a lag, a little bit of latency to it as it's trying to figure out which direction you're going. And if you zoom in on this, then it'll still be keeping you in frame, but the zoom in will not. Keep that in mind. If you're recording to stream and you want to take out bits and pieces, it's best to just let it go at its native resolution without any zoom in, and that way it'll capture everything, and then in post you can do any type of correction to that. I highly recommend it that way. But AI ability, it's got a few little functions to it. You can turn all of those functions on or off if you want to. I usually turn them off because this one right here usually gets it. It's like, even if I did this or I did something like this and I'm using my hands like this, it might think that I want it to turn on the AI ability, and then next thing I know, it's following me. Sometimes you need that static, like right now. I'd rather have me do this and get out of frame than have this try to follow me in a lot of situations, because you kind of ruin the magic. You'll see the sides, you'll see the room, more of the room, and I don't want that to happen in some of those cases. But some cases, I do want it to follow me. I can set this up at the front of a stage. It doesn't block anybody's view. And of course, if you got a speaker that's wandering left and right, this is gonna follow it. And the cool thing about doing it from a stage is usually the lighting situation is a lot different on stage than it is in the audience. So if the presenter walks off stage, usually goes into the dark, you can have this thing kind of stop or reset, or go back to a point where it's like, okay, it's ready for the next presenter to show up, and then it'll go from there. You can also set it up so you can hand off presentations. Somebody else comes on stage and you just basically raise the hand and then move off stage, and then this thing is tracking them rather than you. Another cool feature that the Tail Air, just like the Tinies have, is if you do this, that'll do a zoom in, zoom out. If you do this, it'll zoom in and zoom out on your command. And once again, these are all commands you can turn off in the camera, in the settings, if you don't want them to be used. There's a couple other gestures, but those are the two main gestures that come with this. Now, the Tail Air is also completely wireless. If I turn this thing on right now, I can call it up in my app, and I can get up on YouTube, I can get up on Facebook, I can get up anywhere right here, right now, just through this camera and the phone, of course. So the phone acts as the go-between between the camera and the phone and the internet. So you got to have a phone with Wi-Fi or cellular service to be able to do it. But simple as that, we'll just turn it on. There we go. I do need to charge this. And then we'll call up the OBSBOT start. Here's the OBSBOT start. It's gonna, while it's booting up, we can't see anything, but in a second, this will turn green. There we go. And now if I rescan, it will find, actually it's finding both of them, which is interesting because I didn't think I had that turned on. Okay. So, and that might be because of this. So let's go ahead. This is Tail this is my first one. So I'll go ahead and we'll do live stream with Wi-Fi. And then we'll go ahead and make sure that the Wi-Fi is in the right Wi-Fi. And it's asking, it'll then go through Bluetooth to connect with it to make sure that it's on the right Wi-Fi. And then, poof, it will come in here. It's joining the network right now. We'll bring this over here. There we go. Now we've got the camera right here. And we've got it right here. So this is a complete control of this camera, and it's all wireless. So I can go ahead and I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can, let's take this gimbal and go up like this. Oh, that's interesting. Is that? It's thinking that it's in, there was a new firmware update, and the reason why is because the other app that I'm going to be showing you in a minute, but for some reason it thinks I'm in vertical mode. So let's get it in vertical mode. There we go. Well, that's pretty cool. And there we go. And there, we're in vertical mode. That's pretty sweet. Now, if I do the hand gesture, I think it did it. Oh, let's do that again. Hand gesture. I don't have the hand gestures turned on. So I can go into the app, and I can go to the settings, and I can go to gesture control right here. And I can say select target. I guess it was on. That's weird. So we'll turn that on. We can do OK for record, and we can do the L for zoom. We're going to turn the record off. And then, of course, the dynamic zoom, that was the 2 L's back and forth. We'll leave that on. And what else we got? There we go. Okay. So for some reason, it's thinking that it is in portrait mode. And this must be a new setting. Because like I said, with this new version, there's a reason why it needs a portrait mode. So we'll keep it in vertical mode. We'll keep it in portrait mode. I don't have a problem with that. So I can do my TikToks. I can do my Instagrams. I can even do Instagram lives and TikTok lives using this little guy right here. And I can even go like this, boop, and I can, I don't know if it's a recording. It is recording. So this is the Tail Air. This is in vertical mode. And of course, we've got the gestures going on so we can have it follow. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine, and we're going off the Tail Air vertically into the phone, which is then going to your favorite vertical platform, whether it be Shorts or TikTok or Reels or whatever. Geekazine, we've got some Prime Day deals going on over at Geekazine and youtube.com/Geekazine, where you can see all the video of all the products from OBSBOT. Until next time, you guys geek out and take care. Boom. And there we go. We just recorded a short or a TikTok or a reel or whatever you want to call it. I know there's a whole bunch of them. So, but anyway, you have a lot of ability. There's the face framing that will help you put your face in the middle of there. Let's see what else we got. We'll do that. We've got the ability to set, basically you can set something. You can do some little zooming in and you can set that. And oh, now it's starting to follow me. Or it's starting to figure out where it is. The app, I believe the app is still in its beta form. So this might be just a fun little back and forth. Let's go ahead and disconnect that. What's cool about this is you have accessories. And let's talk about these accessories. The first accessory, I've been using this accessory a lot. This is their USB-C to Ethernet cable connection. Now, what's cool about this is I can plug this in to the USB accessory, which is right there. And the Tail Air, by the way, it has different ways to connect. One's through USB-C, so you can plug it into your computer and use it just like the Tiny 2s do. So you can set it that way. or you can use it through HDMI to HDMI cable that allows you to connect it up to a capture card. You can record onto a micro SD card. You can record and do one of the streaming things. You can't do multiples, but you can at least record and send it out through HDMI, or send it out through USB, or send it out through Ethernet. There's also wireless in here. So you can, like I said, I could have this set up and I can wirelessly connect via NDI into there. You do need to get the NDI license that comes separately with that, but I have a link for that in the show notes as well that you can get. But this cable right here is another great way to get it into your network, because USB-C goes all the way to Ethernet. This is a PoE Ethernet, power over Ethernet. So if you've got a switch that can send power to the camera, it will keep the camera fully charged. And that's what I really like about this cable. I don't need to have another. I have the option for another cable to keep it powered, but I can use one Ethernet cable and that camera will run pretty much all night. So this is a really nice accessory to have. Another nice accessory to have is the wireless remote. This can work with 3 different cameras. Let's get this out of the way. This can work with 3 different cameras. We'll even zoom in on this. There we go. This will even work with 3 different cameras. So once we turn it on, it should recognize at least one of the 3 cameras. Let's turn this back on. And I realized I might not have updated the firmware on that camera just yet, and that's why it probably was going a little cattywampus. So anyway, it's now on. It tells me I have 2 cameras readily available. The green one is the one that it's going to work with. And of course it's not turned on, so it's not going to work, and that's supposed to be this one. But if I do this, press it over here, now the first camera is working. We'll move this into frame, and you can see that I can use it and move back and forth. It's got a lot of features in here. We've got 3 positions, so you can set a position by just holding this down for like 3 seconds. And then it will be ready, so every time you hit P1, it'll go back to that spot. You can readjust it, hold it down for 3 seconds, and then change P1 really easily. So P1, P2, P3. It's got the AI features. On the left here is the AI feature if you're a human. And on the right, it's an AI feature if you're a pet. And yes, you could actually set this on the floor, have your cat doing the zoomies at 3 o'clock in the morning, and have this camera try to capture it. There's also a really cool thing right here, which I won't point. I will do this because, and I'm trying not to get in my eyes. You'll see it's a laser pointer. So we do have a laser pointer option for the device. I don't have it pointed right. There we go. There we go. Anyway, so you have that, and then you have the ability to turn it off. And then there's this middle button here. I got confused because I think I hit P1. You got this middle button here, and the cool thing about this button, it doesn't work right now, but it will work with another app that I'm going to show you in a second here. But let's get through everything for that. But this is the Tail Air remote. What's even more interesting is on the side here, it's also got this similar pin configuration. And then another thing here, I'm guessing there might be, well, there's definitely going to be an accessory, but what that accessory is, I don't know yet. Soon, we might find out soon. But these cameras, speaking of accessories, these cameras do have a pin accessory on the bottom, like this. And the reason why is because of this next item. This is the 360 Play More. Got to zoom it out a little bit. Zooms. Doing the zoomies. So this is the Play More. This is a 2 battery. I'll take out one of the batteries. 2 battery addition to keeping your Tail Air charged. It can take the camera and go for a full 7 hours. It's not the coolest feature on this. The coolest feature is that it can go a full 360. Now, a lot of these PTZ cameras, they can't do 360. There's a point where they just have to stop. But with this device down here, it allows it to go and go and go and go and go. And I've used this. I did a video out in the park where I walked around and this camera followed me easily through this. And that's through the accessory port on the bottom. Now I'm looking at that accessory port. That's what I was thinking with this. This is a single row of pins, so that accessory port would never work on here. But you could put the Tiny 2 on here. Of course, you need the cable to run it, so that wouldn't make much of a difference. It wouldn't work at all, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But anyway, you do have, it is magnetic on here, and there is a mounting screw, which you can get a mounting screw with like a little nub on the end. That way, when you put this on like this, even if you're doing like angles or anything like that, it does a great job and not coming off. You can see I'm shaking this and it's not coming off. But you can pop this off, put that little thing in there, and then of course that's going to give it a little bit more security as well. So, and you might think, well, if I get a screw to screw type thing, but the problem is you might not get contact with these pins or the magnetic part. So I'm pretty sure there's like a screw to a little nub, so it just holds it into place. And maybe OBSBOT's going to come out with one. I don't know. We'll find out. But anyway, that's the whole idea of this. And so if I turn this camera on, we're back on camera. We'll go to camera 2. There we are on camera 2. If I hit the power button, there we go. It's turning on. And then what it'll do is it'll recognize that not only the remote is on, but it'll also recognize that the 360 Play More is in here. So now, once that connects, right now it's not connected because you can see the gimbal move at the head. The other thing with the remote is you have the video record and the snapshot photo on the top, those 2 buttons right there. So we're almost here. Hold on. Joining the network. It takes a second. That's okay. For what it's doing, I'll let it take a second. But anyway, like I said, 7 hours. It's a long play for this. So once again, you can set this up in the rafters and, like a church situation or live band or anything like that. And you can get this pretty close to the front. And then you can get this set up so this is working through whatever sermon, whatever band, or anything like that, and you can get a view. Maybe you want to get a quick shot of the crowd. All you have to do is turn the gimbal to the left or the right to get the shot in there. Tip it down a little bit. There's the crowd, and then you can say, okay, hold that down. That's going to be my P2 shot. Now I'm going to come over here. Well, that's interesting. And then let's see, this is the presenter, and we'll hold down the P1. And now if we go P2, that'll go back over there. And if we go P1, it comes back over here. Now we're back, we're on the camera, so let's move this over a little bit. I got this. There we are. So now we're on the app for here. And let's see if we can get this. It always fails during the recording, right? There we go. There we go. Button it just needed to be turned on. Okay, so it's when you put it on here, it says that it's it looks like it's charging because the light starts flashing. So I figured that would just connect up, but I guess you have to turn it on as well. So there's a little white light down there. Keep that in mind. And now I'll be able to turn this around. As you can see, I'm turning. And then I can put in my P1 and my P2. There we go. So that's the Tail Air. Now I can use this to send out to NDI, which could come to my streaming device, or I could send it straight to YouTube, straight to Facebook. And if you have a solo artist or a band or somebody giving a presentation, you can set this up, hit Facebook, hit live, and then it'll do its best. It really depends on that internet connection. It is going through a bunch of wireless. This will set up its own Wi-Fi hotspot. So what you would do then is you'd set one for the Wi-Fi hotspot, and then you take the second one and tether it. You can use both of them on the same network, and of course they're tethered to each other. It creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot, so then it could then send it out via cellular to YouTube or whatever, and go from there. Now, we showed you the app. And this is all available now. I'm going to show you something that's not available just yet. Coming very soon. It's only on Android right now. So I got to pull up my Android phone. It is called OBSBOT Live. And what's cool about this is it allows for platform streaming or screen streaming, and it becomes its own switcher. So let's go platform streaming. We're going to go landscape, even though this is doing portrait for some reason, and hopefully that'll fix it. So we're going to say we've got 3 cameras that we can use here. We can use our 2 tail airs, which are not in shot. There's the other one. Okay. And then we can use the camera on the phone. Now this phone is a Asus Zenfone, so it's got this really cool camera that actually flips in front to work as a face cam, and then flips to the rear to show so basically one camera. And so we can set this up so all 3 cameras. We can go next step, checking on the network, getting the device Wi-Fi configuration. And remember, this is in beta right now, so it'll eventually come out. We got to choose our Wi-Fi, looks like, which, like I said, I have this really cool ability to, we'll just bring it as the face camera. So we'll bring that up and kind of put my face in there. And that's the cameras being upside down. That's not the OBSBOT because it doesn't know. Then we have the 2 tail airs. That's this one right here, and then this one right here. We can do a picture-in-picture. So let's say this is Canvas 2, which shows all 3 cameras. The product shot, which we'll bring back down. Let's go back to the other way. Oops. Okay, we'll show the product, the OBSBOT there. That's the box for the OBSBOT, by the way. Okay, so now we have all 3 cameras set up in this live setting, or we can just we can switch it to, let's close that down. We can switch it to the first canvas, so all 3 shots are. And I think that will be better. Let's say okay. We can go into the settings, and now we can move around these canvases. We can resize them, or we can reset them back to where they are. More functions will probably come from this. The Android, this is the Android version of the app. There's going to be an iOS version of the app too. So once we're done with that, we can, oops, reset that, and there we go. And we'll go back, there we go. And that's our canvas. So we can set our transitions. There's a couple different transitions that we use. We'll use this transition because it's kind of fun. And then we're going to say how fast the transition goes. We'll leave it right there. We can do the audio mix. So let's go ahead and do next step. And now here's next step. Now I'm going to turn the phone this way. Now it's basically a switcher. So I can go from there to this camera. Nope, this camera right here. There we go. To this one right here. To this, that's the 3 shot right there. Now, what happens is whatever is designated as the primary camera will actually record and also stream. So if we hold, then we can get all the settings. So there's my live stream place. I can only do 1 at a time. I'm doing 1080p, but I can do 720p, and might be able to do 4K in some situations. We're doing 3,500 kilobits per second. We can bump that up. Let's go to 5 megs a second, and then we can add another if we wanted to, but we're not going to. We're going to hit the start button, and it's asking, are you sure? I don't have on my YouTube, I don't have a live stream going, but if I pulled up the event page for live, I'd see the video come on here. So now we've got this sending it to YouTube on here. We can then go ahead and do our flips. So there's this camera right here, and then there's this camera right here, and then the camera from the phone, and then of course we go back to that split view. So this is the new app. Like I said, it's in beta, so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done with it. But that's the general idea of the OBSBOT Live, which is really cool. I can't wait to really show this for the backpack streamers. This is going to be perfect because once again, you can have it set up as hotspots and then send it out via your phone to YouTube, or connect it up to a Wi-Fi and send it to YouTube, and a lot more. So, but there is a ton of accessories. We'll get this out of the way. There is a ton of accessories with the Tail Air. to make this something that's really worthwhile. I have used it in live situations. As a primary camera, not as much. As a secondary camera, getting, just random shots of crowds and maybe the side stage, yes, definitely. It's a great camera to add to your whatever type of streaming rig you have, whether you are using big cameras, you're using small cameras, you're the backpack streamer, as I talk about, where you can put everything into a backpack and be on your merry way. That is what these guys are meant for, and that's the really cool thing. And then, of course, once again, I'm on beta software firmware, so there's a little bit of juggling that needs to happen. But with this station, even with this station right here, which is charging the batteries, giving you 7 hours of battery life. I could go through, I could set this up in a great spot, record a band, all 3 sets, usually about 4 hours worth of work, and then come back and this thing will still be ready to go for the next one. The only downfall with this is I can't plug in like the any of these extra cables, the HDMI cable or the Ethernet cable into here, because it needs to come from the base of here, not from here. So if I do plug it in here, I can use the battery, but I can't use the 360. It's as simple as that. The Tail Air is when it came out, and I got my first one like a year and a half ago. I've been using it for a lot of different things, and it does a great job. Look at the size of it. Simple as that. That's perfect for a lot of people getting in, getting out, getting set up. Comes with the case. You can get some accessories like the remote control, so you don't need to bring a computer. In fact, I play in a band. I set these cameras up, and all I had to do was switch to the camera on the remote, hit the video record button, go to the next one, hit the record button, go to the next one, hit the record button, and then it's recording. And then, of course, I take it back and then I put it all together, put it into a software, and then, of course, multicam switch it down. But these are the things that you can do with these cameras now. And that's what's really exciting about that. So once again, Prime Day deals on this. And of course, 5% for the Tail Air, so using the links that I have down below, or 10% off for the Tiny 2, the regular Tiny 2, not the Tiny 2 Lite. And of course, once again, another link for that is down below as well. So that's it for what I've got here today. Lots of cool stuff from OBSBOT, including the Tail Air, the Tiny 2, and of course the things like the UVC to NDI and the UVC to HDMI. And they have a couple other cameras. They have a couple of other items. You can check that out over at OBSBOT's website or Amazon's website as well. And tell me, what are you using to capture video and live streaming out? Are you just using your phone? Are you looking into one of these camera systems that can do multi-cam switching? Let me know. And there is another product that OBSBOT's coming out with. And we talk about it at NAB. It's called the Talent. And basically you can connect up HDMI cameras. You can connect up USB cameras. I think you can connect up an NDI camera. I'll have to double check with them on that. But then you'll be able to do all your switching from a little box and be able to send it out to YouTube or Facebook or whatever in that same fashion. How cool is that? So that does it for me here with the Tail Air. Let me know if you've got one. Let me know your thoughts on that. Feel free to comment and over at youtube.com/Geekazine, Geekazine.com. You can also subscribe and hit the bell notification. I appreciate that very much. Thanks a lot for watching. We went through a lot here. And once again, that Prime Day deal is down in the links below. And that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. Let me know if you get that, the OBSBOT, what your thoughts are on that. And let's have a great conversation on that. Until next time, you guys geek out and stream on with OBSBOT.